Welcome to the good, the bad, and the sequel with your hosts, Doug and Jamie.
We are back, and this is the movie podcast where we're talking sequels, and we do it in two parts. The first, an interview with an actor or someone involved that made the film worth watching. Last week, awesome, we were able to get the writer of this week's film, and he had some amazing stories that involve Scorsese, Steven Seagal, Stephen King, and just so much. He was responsible for Top Gun. That's all I'll say. But yeah, and then the second part is the discussion of the sequel, what they got right, what they got wrong, and how it could have been better. And I cannot wait to get into this spooky movie, with you guys. But before that, I have to introduce you to my partner in the sequel watching journey, Jamie Riccardi. Jamie, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Doug. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I've seen, so this week's movie is Poltergeist 2. I've seen the first one a bunch of times. I've never seen the second one. It's not like that I was like, hey, this is a bad movie, I don't want to watch it. But I don't know, I just always watched the first one. But do you remember the first one pretty well?
I remember the first one, and I watched it recently, actually, with my kids about 2 years ago. And I've seen this movie multiple times when I was younger as well. I even saw the third one. But, I think there's a difference between a bad movie and a good movie at the time that doesn't hold up well. This movie is a good movie at a time that does not hold up well.
We'll get into it when we start talking about the movie, but this movie just goes in a direction that it's like comedy. There's a lot of funny parts in it.
Well, I mean, you have Coach Craig T. Nelson,
who's
crushing it. But I did a little research on this movie.
Oh, cool.
And first of all, one of the things that struck me as so ridiculous is I was curious what the budget was, because the special effects in this movie are horrendous. I have to say, So, do you know how much the movie cost to make?
No, I couldn't. I would guess back then, 86, 35 million.
Okay, it was 19 million.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and it grossed 40 million. A little over 40 million. So it was a success.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the thing that stood out for me from this movie was definitely the special effects. I mean, it was bad. Even when they're standing and you see the backdrop, it looked like a painting. Like it was just overall bad. This movie got a nomination for Best Special Effects in 1986.
Wow. Well, Michael did talk about that guy that was a special effects guy. He was like the guy at that time. So I don't know, maybe if you remember, or if we were in 1986 and we saw this, maybe it'd be a little bit different. But it does look pretty.
Well, that's what I mean. So when I saw this movie, it was creepy. It was, it was a good movie back in the day because it was a great follow-up. It had the same actors from the first movie, and it was great. Watching it now, 30 years later, whatever, it does not hold its water. Now, it did not win for Best Special Effects. It was running against Little Shop of Horrors and Aliens.
Oh, well. And Little Shop of Horrors won. No, I'm just kidding.
Aliens did take the gold.
Yeah.
So, so just to give you an idea. So I was shocked to see that it even got nominated. But I guess, again, at the time, it was probably pretty awesome. But, it was rough.
So this is one of those movies that we've talked about a few that are like this. They just get right into it. The title card shows up like 5 seconds after the movie starts, and we get introduced to Native Americans. Was that guy was Taylor in the first one?
He was not in the first one, but okay. Do you know where he's from?
Oh, no, he's not the crying Indian in the commercials, is he?
No. He's in what's the movie with Michael Keaton, Danny DeVito, back in the day when they're in a loony bin. What is it called? The famous movie
Dream Team?
No, before that, I think Michael Keaton was in it.
Oh, you're talking about One Who Flew.
Yes.
Oh, that's Jack Nicholson.
Oh, Jack. Okay, Jack.
Oh, he was the one at the end that killed Jack.
Yeah, he's the one. He's the guy with him in there. That's him.
Yeah. He throws the water. Oh, dude, that's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's him. And the kid. I didn't realize it from the first movie, but he's the kid from Airplane. Scraps.
Oh yeah. Holy crap. Yeah. So no, right away I'm like, man, I'm thinking the first one was that guy in the first one, but
no,
he plays a big part in this movie, and there's a lot of, And one thing that right off the bat is it's so cool, like you mentioned before, that they have everyone back. Like a lot of times the sequels we've covered, it's like these people aren't even in it. It doesn't even sniff the storyline of the first one. I mean, I think Craig T. Nelson and Jo Beth Williams, they have such awesome chemistry. These movies, you're like, you believe that they're like a married family, and it was good.
You know what? I think the casting for this movie, for both of them, the 1 and 2 were great. I think the little girl obviously was awesome. I mean, I know on the interview he touched on it that she was a perfect casting for the role. She was amazing. She really was. For a little girl who's 10 years old in the movie, she was a great actress.
Yeah, and she pretty much, we'll get into it a little bit later, but she pretty much dies twice, but then comes back. But that's for towards the end. But so the first thing that I've written down that I loved was so Craig T. Nelson and his wife are hooking up, and Carol Ann walks in and he carries her out of the bedroom in like record time sprinting to put her to bed so he can get back and get some of that Jo Beth Williams.
Well, that was even after the whole beginning with the Indian scene. So
I know, yeah.
The first thing I had was when the two Indians were on top of that like crater or mountain top.
Yeah, how'd they get there?
That was exactly it wasn't like there was a mountain leading to it. It was like part of the Grand Canyon, I guess, or whatever it left it to look like. But it was a huge rock pile.
I know.
That was overlooking, and they're sitting atop doing whatever. So yeah, but that's what I had right away. And then obviously the backdrop looks so cartoony. That was the start. I'm like, oh my god, this movie definitely is not holding water. But you're right. Craig T. Nelson could not wait to get her out of there. But listen, you're a parent now. You know what? But you're lucky. Your child's in a crib still.
Yeah, but she's starting to like move around. So no, I get it. No, I know. I totally get what he was doing, but it was just so funny. That's like the first time we like see her again. And then, so this movie, out of any movie I've ever seen in my life, one of the most memorable characters ever is the Reverend, the preacher. Dude, how creepy.
He was so, I was watching this with my daughter and I kept telling her, I can't look at his teeth anymore because his teeth are so creepy, but I couldn't stop looking at his teeth. Like all I saw was this, like, he looked like a Walking Dead skeleton zombie as a human. Like he was so creepy looking. I'm hoping he doesn't look like that in real life because he looked like the Walking Dead. Like he looked horrible and he was so creepy. The way he spoke, the way he looked, it was, again, talk about casting. He was a perfect casting for that.
Oh yeah. Maybe that's why they cast. Maybe he does look like that, and they were able to save on makeup or something. But no, he just looked. And when we see him and Carol Ann, they're shopping in the mall, and he like walks up to. He's like creepily like stalking her. She's running around screaming, "Mommy, mommy!" And not one adult like helps out. Like what the hell?
I wrote that down. It's like, you the second a child yells mommy or looks lost, you would think that so many moms would run over like, are you okay? Not one person stopped. Not one. They ignored it completely. It must have been in New York.
It must have been in New York. Yeah. Just like in Home Alone 2, the only person that Donald Trump didn't even help out Kevin McAllister when he was getting chased. But no, so the thing that's weird is, at first, you don't know if it's like only Carol Ann that can see him. But then the mom walks up, and at first, you don't know if she could see her because it's like the dialogue, what she's saying. And then she's like, "Thank you, sir." It's like, why wouldn't you like scold this guy? It was like touching her.
Well, don't forget, when you first see him, he walks through a person.
I know. That's why I'm like,
right. Yeah. So you're thinking, and Caroline obviously has been talking to ghosts since the first movie. So, right. The whole time I'm thinking she's the only one that can see him. But then he has interaction with the mom right away, and she seemed kind of comfortable with a stranger who looked the way he did, being that close to her daughter, who was just missing, by the way. And she didn't notice until who knows how long, because she was already shopping in another store.
I know. That was so bad. She's like, where's your sister? And it's like, wait, it seemed like they were like in their third store, like that she was gone. I don't even know where she could have went, but yeah, just how creepy he was. And I could not imagine. Like,
now, when she went to look for her daughter, did she leave her son in the store?
Yes, she did.
So she basically left her other son, who's not much older than the other girl.
Yeah.
And she leaves him in the store and runs to get the girl. So, but if you watch the movies, I think she likes the girl better anyway. And she even says that later on. She's something like where she like, you're the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. While the sun is like right there.
So in this movie, their house obviously disappeared. And dude, the whole joke with that's when I was like, was the first one funny? Because this one had so many funny lines. When he was talking to his wife, Craig T. Nelson, he's talking about the homeowner's insurance. And they're like, well, maybe we should have told him that the house vanished into thin air.
Well, this is when he was seducing her too, right?
Yeah.
He was singing to her.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you, like, have you ever sung, a corny song to Jamie and then she just gets like right into it because he was singing like a song that I guess when they were first dating, right? When 20 years before or whatever. Like, I mean, they looked older. Would that work now? Like, I mean, like if you sang a song to Jamie, do you think she would just melt?
No, she'd melt in tears and just laugh at me. No, that and just how funny he was because he was acting like crazy. He's like, I'll sign it, Mr. President. And you're like, what's happening? So anyway, they're living in this movie. They're living with Jo Beth Williams' mom, so here's something that happens pretty early in the movie. So she dies in her sleep. And just before she dies in her sleep, we don't know if she's dead yet. Like, we don't know as the audience. Carol Ann kisses her on the cheek.
And you know what? She also looked kind of creepy. I have to be honest.
She was really creepy.
She was creepy looking also. And it's funny. She was laying there when Carol Ann went in there, which I don't know why she went in there to give her a kiss. Like, she was already sleeping. It was kind of like she woke up in the middle of the night to give her a kiss. I'm looking at her. I'm like, she looks dead. But like I wasn't thinking that just the way she was sitting there.
Yeah.
And then she goes back to her room and gets a phone call from her.
And by phone call, we mean on like one of those little play school phones. Oh. And that was so weird. It's like, okay, grandma. And I'm like, wait, did she just kill her? Did she actually kill her grandma?
Yeah, that was. Well, don't forget, I mean, in the first one, she does a lot of talking and you never hear what's on the other end. Like, she talks to the TV, she talked to a lot of different things and she's always talking, but you never hear what she's talking about, But yeah, that just gave you an idea that things are still going on.
Yeah. And then one thing that was really cool, if you guys go back and listen to the episode, the interview with Michael Grace, he talked about when they were getting ready to get the cast together and Jo Beth Williams' mom actually passed away in real life. So he said he would write it into the movie and he did, which is like, I'm sure that was pretty nice for him to do that. But so one thing that was, I think we're going to go into a little bit of the special effects here. So how about Jo Beth Williams? She has that nightmare of being pulled into the lawn by the zombies. And then she just wakes up.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess that's foreshadowing what's going on later in the movie. But, I think we totally missed this part. So before we get into this, I think we had the psychic midget from or am I allowed to say midget? Or is it a little person? Or
you could say that. He said it. He called her a magic munchkin.
Well, he says a lot of things that I don't know if they're, the right way to say it.
Yeah.
But when they were digging in the old pool of the old house.
Oh, yeah.
There's a huge cave down there. I've seen pools being built. And I know they were built on top of a grave, with I guess it was an Indian burial ground.
Yeah.
But there was a whole cavern tunnels underneath their house. Like that was kind of like, pretty weird. And they went pretty deep. So I don't know how they, did that or what they found over there. But that was the start where the Indian guy comes in. I guess he's working with the psychic midget.
Yeah. So, it was pretty wild that they obviously the first movie, they had the Indian burial ground, but on top of where this cave was, the Indians buried their, they're dead. And the thing that was crazy, and I think we can talk about it now, is what that cavern was. Dude, that was a creepy ass part of the movie too. When the Reverend, the preacher, he has the people, he convinces people that the world's going to end. He takes them down there, dude. And that, honestly, that really did something to me because. So
is that considered limbo? I think because they don't know where to go, right? Isn't that part of what they're talking about? So he's bringing them to like a limbo where they're not bringing them to heaven, but they're not going to hell. Like, I don't know. I was kind of confused with that.
I don't know if it was limbo, but it was because later in the movie, they find the skeletons of all those people in the cave. But it was weird that when he's sitting there talking and you hear like when the kids were screaming, the babies are crying, dude, I was like, my wife watched the last like 15 minutes, and I looked over to her. I'm like, damn, that's rough. Like that was rough.
Well, what happened when he put his hand out and you see the child's hand grabbing his hand? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, so she saw like you don't realize that she has, spoiler alert, it seems the women in their line have, I guess, psychic powers or foreshadow. What do you call
psychic?
Psychic, I guess.
Yeah, premonition. Yeah, no,
Right.
it's just so weird that was the storyline, and then she was able to do it. And then the grandma earlier in the movie was talking to Carol Ann, was like, do you see things before they happen? She's like, yeah, grandma. And she was, oh my God, dude. Oh, she's drawing with crayons.
Yeah.
The creature's face. And we've never seen him yet. This is before we've even seen him. And oh my God, man.
Well, I didn't, watching the first movie, I didn't put two and two together that she could see those things. I just thought that she just, they were talking to her, but I wasn't thinking that she had this special ability. But apparently the grandmother had it. She has it, and so does the mom. So, it was well, again, look at the name of the movie is Poltergeist 2, The Other Side.
Yeah.
So true. Now they're doing a lot more interacting with the other side, where before the first movie, you don't really see it. You just see her, disappear and you can hear her talking. Here, you're getting a lot of glimpses of what's going on the other side.
Yeah. Could you imagine being married to somebody that could like read your mind? Craig T can't get away with anything. Or that kid, his mom already knows where he hid the porno and hid the beer. Like, he couldn't get away with anything. Yeah. So then we get our first like real, I guess, interaction, a storm, just like always in these movies. The storm starts and it's only over their house. They're still living in the grandma's house. And it starts raining and the toy phone rings again.
Well, the storm cloud looked amazing. When it was over the house, it looked like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like the special effects for that alone was ridiculous. But the reason why the phone started ringing is because all those spirits were in the sky. You saw them. And then the raindrop landed on the phone, which activated the spirit to go through the phone because all the spirits are coming through there. It just, that whole scene was bizarre.
Dude, when the robot, the little toy robot was like, bam, bam. It seemed like he was like really firing something out of his pistol.
Yeah.
And the little kid is just, everything in the room's flying around. And then they storm into the room. I think maybe they were getting it on the other room again. And they barge into the room. The kids are hiding under a blanket. And Carol Ann, she says, they're back.
You know what? And that's such a creepy line. It really is. Well, I like how like these spirits always have a way of locking the door because a few times they locked the door behind anyone trying to get in there, and Craig T. Nelson had to constantly try to barge down the door.
What can they take over? This is a question that I have for later in the movie. It's kind of like Maximum Overdrive. What can they take over? Because they took over in one part a chainsaw. They ripped an electrical wire out of the wall, and they were trying to kill them with that, but they didn't do anything to the car.
But they can take over people. We know that.
Yeah. So
they can take over braces.
Oh.
So, I mean, you would think that, if you could take over a chainsaw and everything else that's in that garage, why can't you take over the car? But I guess they're probably ripping off Christine, the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true. So where are we at now?
Well, so this is the first time they see the paranormal going on in the house.
Yeah.
It's in the kids' room, and now they're leaving the house. And this is what I question. So they get in the car and they start driving. Do they really think it's just a coincidence that's just another house? Like they don't realize they're just following them. Like they think it's the house again. So they're going to drive and get away, not knowing where they're going. And then the next scene, they're in a diner eating breakfast.
I love this part.
Like nothing happened. Like you just saw a tornado inside of a room. You saw toys acting out, phones ringing that are not plugged in, that are toy phones, and then let's have breakfast. Like I would be freaking out right now, unless you're so used to we're used to it. It's part of our life now. It's like nothing. Like I don't get it.
I know, and Taylor's at the house. That's where he says the magic. He's like, no matter where you go, the evil spirits will follow. Because he says that the magic munchkin lady must have sent you. So no, this is the best part. So they're at the diner.
Oh,
two women are sitting there, and at first I'm like, why are we hearing their conversation? And then obviously they interact. But she goes, "You brought me out at 4:00 in the morning for this. why are you messing around with that clown? Like talking about like some bad relationship. She had tin foil in her hair. So I guess she was like doing her hair before she went to bed. And then the mom takes over that lady's body and talks to them in the diner. And it seems like everybody could see that.
Well, you know what? But I questioned that because Craig T. Nelson didn't seem convinced that it was the mom. Like the mother was getting emotional, because she said it hurt. It sounded just like her mom. But Craig T. Nelson, so maybe just the mom was able to hear that. I just want to know, is the woman like in her pajamas and curlers and she's at the diner? Why? Would you leave your house like that?
I wouldn't, but maybe she was like, "Oh, I need to talk to you, Melanie." And she was like, "Oh, I got to be there for Melanie. She was there when my dog died." But no, it was just, but it seemed like, because then when she came to, she was like, "I don't know you people." She didn't know where she was for a second. Even her friend had to help her away. So no, that was so weird.
It was weird, but I don't know if everybody saw them because the kids didn't react to it. It was only the wife was starting getting teary-eyed because it sounded just like the grandmother.
Yeah, there's a really funny part right here with the kids. The kids are worried about where they're going to be going. And Carol Ann says Disneyland. Then when her brother calls her an infant, which is like a big diss in their household, she says, "Okay, fine, Dunkin' Donuts." I wonder how much sponsorship that they paid to help out with that budget, because it was so random. They picked like two big entities, not like, "Hey, why don't we go to my friend's house who lived down the street?" No, Disneyland and Dunkin'.
Well, it just shows you what kind of life she has also, is that her second choice is Dunkin' Donuts. So she wants to go to Disneyland. It's, that's the greatest, the happiest place. If I can't do that, then let's do Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, we're mostly like homeless people and ex-war vets hang out. The one in my town, the people that used to hang out there late at night were, man, there were some like characters. Real quick, there was a guy that went there and he had a stuffed animal dog that he would put in the passenger seat so he wouldn't drive by himself.
This is your Dunkin' Donuts?
Well, this is the one in South Plainfield where I grew up.
Well, I don't mean the one you owned. I mean like the Dunkin' Donuts by you.
Yeah. Okay. It was weird. He would sit there and he would the fake it was a stuffed German Shepherd in his passenger seat. But yeah, so anyway, so Craig T. Nelson, I mentioned before, he is so funny in this movie. When he's talking to Taylor, he gets very, very racist.
Racist, and he's like bitter, like he doesn't want help. Like everybody is looking like right now, who do you want to turn to? He's like, "No, we got to handle ourselves," but you're not handling anything. You really can't. So like he's like angry at this guy who, if you look at him, he looks like they let a midget lady who, helped them in the first movie. This guy seems even more like powerful. He's got the necklaces, he's got the feather in his head, he seems to know what he's talking about. I don't know why he's turning him away so fast. Yeah,
he says to him, "I read buried at Wounded Knee." Well, most of it, and I think I have part Indian in me. He didn't even say Indian.
He said Indian.
That's what I mean. He said Indian. I'm like, oh my God, man. And how about the Native American guy? We already know that, obviously, from the beginning of the movie, he's got something special about him. But when he's sitting there and all the moths are all over them.
And I think he's like a real Indian who's I think during the filming of this movie, I think I read something where he was doing some kind of spirit stuff, because there's a lot of obviously documentary about the curse and everything of Poltergeist.
Yeah.
And I think he was trying to, so he's like the real deal, real deal Indian.
Real deal Indian. I just love that they went that route and they took somebody that was that much into the character, because then it's believable. Like when I saw him on screen, I was like, I believe that. I believe this family. I believe that creepy, Reverend Kane, when he's walking down the street singing religious songs. And I love that he's like, it reminded me of when I used to sell door to door, and you'd be walking down the street and then somebody would be looking at you. You're like, "Oh, I'm going up your driveway." But no, when he walks up the driveway, I'm like, dude, why are they letting him even get that close? Just say "Oh, mister, you need to leave now."
Well, you again, we talked about perfect casting. I mean, back to the Indian and Kane, both of them, they're perfect. I don't think you could have gotten an actor to try to play an Indian. It would have had the same effect. You needed someone that's going to, ward off spirits. And I think, having someone like him was perfect. He did a great job. And then just Kane, you're right. First of all, just imagine a guy like that, dressed like that, looking like that, just walking in your neighborhood that has kids around. The cops would have been called multiple times, and it seemed like no one was around. He just seemed to be able to walk anywhere he wanted to.
Yeah, and so he's talking to the family, and he's kind of like creeping them out. Like Carol Ann goes inside, everybody goes inside except Craig T, and he starts trying to gain his trust, and he starts talking shit about the Native American guy.
Well, you know what? Even the dog got creeped out because he started petting the dog, and the dog kind of like barked, and then he ran inside. So, so he gave a weird spirit to everybody, like a weird, aura about him. But yes, he's trying to convince Craig T. Nelson. But I think Craig T. Nelson, to be honest with you, is probably the dumbest one out of all of them. Like, he just seems the most naive.
Yeah.
So he probably figured, all right, because is he like the devil, Kane? Like, is he kind of like the devil or like one of his minions, I guess? So I figured, you know what, I got a sucker here. So let me bring him out. And he was like, was he possessing him at that point, or
he was like he was mesmerized because the way he was looking at him, and then he was like, I think if he gets invited in, maybe kind of like a vampire thing. But when he says to him, Craig T. Nelson goes, I forgot what he says to him, but Kane says back to him, I'm smart. I'm your friend. And I'm like, if somebody said that, obviously I'd be creeped out, but he didn't know what was going on. He was already, and then he finally got out of the trance when his wife yelled to him. Then when he goes in the house and he says, let me in.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Before he slammed the door on him, he started getting louder and creepier.
Oh.
Like he it took him a little too long to like shut the door on him, because I think he was entertaining it way too long. Because you could see like he was getting anxious to get in there, because obviously if he got in there, he'd be able to take Carol Ann, because he's after Carol Ann the whole movie. Like, she's the core, and that was creepy, man.
And just the way he would scowl and yell, he would show more of his teeth, and it was just.
Do you think that was his real teeth?
I hope not. But going back to what I said earlier, maybe they saved on makeup department.
They might have, man, because he just looked like a walking skeleton. Oh,
no, he was great. And then this is why I think this movie's like half comedy. It's not like I'm sitting here saying the movie's like funny laughing at. It's like I'm laughing with it, because Craig T. there's so many lines he has. But how about when he's just, all this stuff's happening? His family's getting chased by ghouls and ghosts again. And he's like, you know what? Let me just get shit-faced. And dude, when he's just getting shit-faced, it's just like, oh my God, he's just being such a dick to Taylor.
And he's drinking tequila, correct?
Yeah.
So he's drinking from the bottle of tequila the whole movie.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty hardcore. I mean, people, I don't know too many people that drink tequila straight like that. Like, and he does it multiple times in a movie.
That's alcoholics do that.
Oh, okay. All right.
Those are alcohol. But when you walk, and the way he was walking around the bottle, he was like holding it by the neck and like it was like he was carrying like lifelessly, and he was so hammered.
Oh, you know what part I was laughing at also with the Indian, when he goes to about his car. He goes, that car's angry as it's smoking, and then Craig T. Nelson goes, no, that car's pissed.
I love when he comes home the second time with the car after they had the interaction, and he starts like kind of yelling at him. He's like, "Yeah, they're gonna fix the car."
Yeah, that car definitely became like a real jalopy. I mean, especially when it escapes from the garage and it's like no fender. It's like, I don't think it's got a wheel. It's like scratched up. Yeah.
I think the car is like it's another character in this movie.
It
Perfect
is
casting, station wagon. You got to go with it,
It reminds me of the car from Vacation.
Kind of, yeah. So Carol Ann goes upstairs and she has to. Her brother's in the bathroom, and I get he's probably at that age, but he's looking around. He wants to like shave.
First of all, I don't think he's at that age, because I mean, there wasn't a whisker on his face.
Oh, I know.
There really isn't anything. And again, you have, maybe he did this with your father, but like, I don't think it looks like he's never shaved before ever.
Yeah,
your father would be there with you, for the first one. Or you probably even with an electric razor. He's out there getting the shaving cream, the razor, like he's putting on cologne, it looked like, or something, and a button-down shirt. But isn't it like nighttime? Aren't they all going to bed?
Yeah, and he's just had this traumatic experience again. It's not like he's in school right now and
Correct.
There's a girl that he likes. Maybe
Right.
they had that in there and they took it out. But I love some of the disses back and forth, because she calls him an infant. She calls him an infant, and he calls her a jerko. And then that was really creepy. Like, not like it was like hard to do those effects, but when he like is looking away and the skeletons are in the mirror, and then he looks back and it's gone. But oh my God.
And then she grabbed then the skeleton hand grabbed his shoulder.
Yeah.
And then it was Carol Ann.
Yeah. So then The braces.
Well, this was to me the special effects. This is the best part of the special effects. You know, the other stuff was kind of crappy. They did a pretty good job with this. You know, I don't know if it was stop motion or how they did that, but yeah, it was interesting. It was.
They're just his braces are like flying out, and I was trying to guess like what was going to be when they went in there. What he was going to be like? I didn't know if it was going to be like when I just watched Nightmare on Elm Street. Thought it was going to be like wrapped around his like whole body, and he was just going to be like laying on the floor all tied up. So they barge down the door, and he's like tied to the ceiling. He's like just wrapped up on the ceiling, and dude, they were trying to kill him.
Well, they were trying to go into the outlet. They were definitely trying.
I know, that was crazy.
Yeah. Well, you know, but now two things I wonder, and this goes back to the first movie. So two major crazy things happened in the bathroom. You remember what happened in the first movie?
Oh, dude, I love it. That's when the cutting of the face and ripping the face.
And he's ripping his face off, but then he opens his eyes and it's not there anymore. Like it was all in his head. Was this all in his head? Even though Craig T. Nelson came in there, the minute it goes into the outlet, it was all gone. So was that like did it really happen or was it in their head?
Well, it could have really happened. No, that's a good question. Because everybody involved knew that it was going on. But yeah, maybe it isn't really happening. It's just
because it did go, in fact, into the outlet. And if it went in the outlet, I can't imagine anyone surviving. I mean, there was so much wire in there that, I mean, it would have exploded. So I'm thinking like it was a fear tactic that they used in the first one with the maggots and on the chicken. Remember the meat? Remember the maggots?
Oh, yeah.
So I'm thinking that a lot of this Poltergeist does a lot of fear tactics and plays with their fears. And because I think there's a point where the engine says, don't worry, it's all in your mind. It's not really there or something. I don't remember what part that was. But yeah.
So what you're positing right now is the Poltergeist is really just a prankster. He is just like, it's like, MTV Punk'd, but with, Craig T. Nelson.
You know what? I didn't think of it that way. Maybe the idea of punk came from Poltergeist too.
Yeah. Maybe it's just a real big jokester. Like, yeah. So what's going to happen is I'm going to rip the braces out of his mouth and then tie him to the ceiling.
So you think maybe he's really misunderstood. So you think the Poltergeist is a misunderstood, being that he just really wants to play.
And just be loved. I think that's a big theme in this movie. Family and love is.
So maybe the family are the bad guys and they're shunning the Poltergeist, who is lonely.
Don't give me the Daniel LaRusso as the bad guy. So how about when Craig T. Nelson goes downstairs? This goes to what we were just talking about, the prankster. He goes, "Why don't you just leave us alone?" And he sits in the leather chair and shoots him across the room.
Well, that's also after he yells at the what's his name, Taylor.
Yeah,
and he says, because you didn't help us. And the whole time they were yelling at him. They figured, we got this guy who's got magic powers of his own. He's not helping us. But he says, and this is where I guess it all comes to. He goes, "He's not after you. I was protecting your daughter." Which I thought was a pretty cool scene. I thought that like he knew that if he left a girl, then that's why I think it was a fear tactic, because really it was a distraction. That thing would happen in the bathroom was a distraction to leave the daughter alone so they could have taken her.
The old misdirection.
The misdirection.
No. And then why would he be yelling at Taylor anyway? Taylor was clearly holding his daughter. She was in his arms. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, he yells at everybody in the whole movie.
He does, yeah. No, he gets really wild. But no, then as soon as he gets thrown out of the chair, then we hear the Reverend's creepy voice, like really low in the distance. And I wrote this down to ask you: Do you believe in ghosts?
I have a mixed feeling about it. I have I don't know. I have a hard time believing in it, but I don't know.
But if something like this happened, like I don't think these people would be normal.
Well, after the first movie, after everything that happened in the first movie, I don't think they'd be normal. And they still and it seems like in this movie, after every crazy thing that happens, the next scene, they're like acting like nothing happened.
I know.
And that's what I mean. Like when they went to the diner eating breakfast, like nothing, like they don't seem traumatized. They seem traumatized at the moment. And then when that moment's done, it's like, all right, it's over.
Yeah.
Like,
and I was to say, this is how you know they're not traumatized, because after that pretty serious event, the next day, Craig T and Taylor leave and they just leave the family by themselves. They just like leave to go sit into the sweat lodge, which we'll get into. But yeah, so he's just sitting there at a sweat lodge, smoking out of a peace pipe with Taylor. They're just like broing out. Yeah. And the family's all by themselves. That scene was pretty wild in the sweat lodge.
That was, but again, you know what? And I think, again, we didn't touch on this. So real quick, when they went back to the son with the braces, they left the daughter alone again.
Oh, I know.
Like they're constantly leaving one child behind. And every crazy, like, what do you think? Like, there's obviously something crazy going on. Let's not leave her alone because she's obviously a core of everything. And they left her alone again. So, like, I think parenting, they have issues with parenting.
I know, they should go to some class. And that's funny. They always have to like run. Like, yeah, just don't leave your kids behind, guys.
Yeah. So, but yeah, and you know what? Honestly, I think a lot of this happens when the kids are alone. Like when the kids are with the parents, a lot of stuff doesn't happen at all. It's when the kids are alone. So you would think, and it's even with the first movie, when the kids are alone in the bedroom or anywhere else, it's always happening. It's really never happening when the parents are with the kids. So just don't leave their sight.
Yeah, they should have known that. And then, that's just true. Because maybe, like you said, they're trying to create that misdirection.
That's exactly.
So that's why they wait for the kids to be. That's funny. Every time in this movie, kids are alone.
Yeah.
Robots and the phone. Yeah.
Well, don't forget, a good prank doesn't happen unless it's misdirection.
And Ashton Kutcher, he watched this movie and he's like, punked. That's what he thought of when he saw this movie. But no, so they're in the sweat lodge and Taylor makes like a spirit rise out of the fire. It scares the shit out of Craig T. Nelson. And then he goes, now the spirit knows you and you know him. So you can, I think he said defeat it or you can know when it's near. But then he blows smoke, literally, or a spirit into his nose and it goes into his body. Well, I just didn't know what was going on when that happened.
That was protection, obviously.
Oh, I know, yeah.
But did Craig T. Nelson have to have his shirt off for this?
Well, it's a Native American sweat lodge, so I guess he was preparing to sweat.
Well, the Native American didn't have a shirt off.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. Maybe he was like, I'm going to take my shirt off, and Taylor's like, no, need.
Now, was Craig T. Nelson drinking at this point? I think, was he drinking in there?
When is he not drinking?
Well, because wasn't he holding like an axe or something in there? He was holding something.
Yeah, they both had like Native American, like little small, like tomahawks.
And Craig T. Nelson seemed like he's like, is this for real? Like, am I really doing this? Like, he seemed like he didn't want to be there. He's like, why are we doing this? And then again, he's the only one who had his shirt off. I just, I don't know. That just seemed a little weird.
I think the only time he's not drinking is when he's selling vacuums door to door, which they only talked about for like 3 seconds in this whole movie.
Well, I was going to get to that also. Do either one of them work? Like the mom, because they seem to be home a lot. So I don't think they were. I mean, I know he's in the beginning they had the issue with the vacuum, but did he sell vacuums in the first movie too?
I don't remember, but no, that was so weird. They just talked about that for like a few seconds, but no, and they're having it unless they're just defaulting on their mortgage. They still have a mortgage because they don't recognize that the house, just disappeared, which it really did. They're not paying them out on homeowners insurance, and he's a vacuum salesman.
Well, I really wonder how insurance would look at that. You're paying you stop paying for your house because the house is no longer there. Yeah. Like, I wonder how that would really work.
It's like one of those State Farm commercials. That's the old disappearing house trick.
We don't talk about State Farm.
Oh man. I think, I even said the commercial wrong. It's Farmer's commercial.
All right. State Farm has cars that they don't cover cars that go on fire, but that's another story.
Well, maybe they don't cover how. Maybe they had State Farm cars that start on fire involuntarily, and also houses that vanish into thin air. We don't cover it. It's in the fine print. You have to read it with a very, very finite microscope.
I think State Farms only cover farms. I think that's what it is. Oh boy, man. Is that a dad joke?
So when they are at the sweat lodge, Jo Beth Williams, she's home, and it's kind of like kind of a cruel joke because there's a door knock, creepy. She opens up I really like that peephole thing. I love that little door. She opens it, nothing there. Hears it again, opens it, nothing there. Then opens the door, and it's this house of Clear Lady.
You know what? And it's funny. I really don't remember this movie. And last night I saw Joker, and in the movie there is a midget. And I'm not gonna say it, So I'm watching this with my daughter, and as she opened it twice, she looks out there. I go to my daughter, I go, "That's not funny. What if there's a midget standing there?" And sure enough, she opened the door, and what's her name? What's her name from the first movie? Angelina or no?
That sounds right.
Something like that. Yeah, it's the magic lady from the first movie, or as Craig T. Nelson calls it, a magic midget.
Magic Munchin.
Oh, Magic Munchin.
Yeah. So then like right after this, they go back to the house and Taylor leaves. He just leaves them. He's like basically, oh, we know everything's okay. And the family's eating dinner. And this is like a really funny part. So he goes to the son because the son was like he said, "Son, take your football helmet off at the table." So then the son's all sad and he like offers all these things to play. I only wrote one of them down, but he goes, "Hey, miniature golf. Let's go to miniature golf. We'll grab the putters." And wait, who brings their own putters to mini golf? You don't do that. But he like said, like, "Oh, bowling? How's bowling sound?" And this kid's sitting there depressed. This is the first time we've seen somebody sad because Carol Ann's never sad.
Well, don't forget, this is right after the kid had his braces issue.
Oh no, I know.
So he's holding a baseball bat. So like he's like freaked. You know what? You're right. This is the first person that's been freaked out at watching something. You know, and it's the same kid. Don't forget, almost got eaten by a tree in the first movie. Had a clown that almost strangled him. I know. So why was the braces more traumatic than a tree trying to eat you and a clown trying to strangle you?
So this is like a really funny part, and this is like I almost felt like I felt like a moron that I did not realize this. So when they're in the bathtub, I was like, "Who is that baby?" And it was her doll because she's watching the doll's hair, and I'm like, "What is going on?" But we did get some Joe Beth side boob.
A little. It wasn't a lot. But listen,
hey, little's better than nothing.
Hey, listen, Joe Beth showed her underwear in the first movie.
Yes, she did.
And she was like Spider-Man. She was like flipping around the walls and ceiling. So, yeah.
She's awesome.
Was she in anything else? What was she in?
I was about to ask you that. She was just in a show that I saw not too long ago, but I don't know. She's awesome.
I was saying, she's pretty good looking for back then. I mean, listen, definitely way above Craig T. Nelson's.
Yeah, he married up. No, she has that Sigourney Weaver look. So maybe Sigourney Weaver took all the roles. they both went to the audition. They're like, "Now we're going to go with Weaver."
Jeez.
So how about this is when we first talked about doing this movie, and I looked on YouTube and I sent a clip to you. Man, when he's drinking the tequila and they show that close up on the worm and it has a face and it looks like probably like a puppeteer doing it. Dude, when he drinks that is so disgusting. You
knew that was going to come to play. I mean, and again, drinking tequila from the bottle the whole movie, and then sucks that down. I was waiting for something to happen. Like I didn't expect to happen what happens. He gets possessed. I thought something else was going to happen. Which kind of happens later on.
Yeah.
But yeah, honestly, I think this whole part was very creepy.
Oh, I love it, dude. When you knew that it was the preacher was in his body and Craig T, he knocked it out of the park. He had such a great role. This is like the third or fourth movie that we've done that a character is possessed and they're playing somebody else, like Bill and Ted with the parents in that movie with a dad. So, dude, he's so good in that. And it's just like,
he became a dirty old man, and like very believable. Like, and honestly, I even take the wife. She played a great part because she was fear. Like she had tons of fear in her when Craig T. Nelson was like. I mean, he was basically about to rape her. That was a pretty intense scene.
Yeah, and the thing was, she just said, "You're drunk."
Yeah,
how'd she not realize the way he was talking? That's not how my husband of 20 years really talks. Because he was like saying weird words. And one thing I rewound, and it's funny, when I rewind things, usually not for like, oh, I missed this really cool scene. When they show just before Craig T. Nelson is creepily walking up the stairs in the dark and going to stalk his daughter, well, the Reverend is, she's standing there blow drying her daughter's hair, her doll's hair next to a full bath. That is dangerous. Why wouldn't she be like a little bit? I'm like, even for like on set, that was a real hair dryer. Why the hell would they let her do that? But then he comes up and I'm like, dude, is he, because you don't know what these movies are going to be. Obviously, I knew she was in the third one, but she survives, it seems, everything. I thought he was going to like pick her up and put her in the bathtub, man, because he came really close. But
well, this is a girl that lives on the edge. I mean, she talks to TVs and talks to fake telephones and hears spirits. I don't think she's afraid of a little blow dryer in a tub.
Yeah, she probably wouldn't be, but she knew something was a little bit off.
Oh yeah, well,
she gave him like this weird look.
She sensed it, and you know what? That kind of creeped me out a little bit because I didn't know what direction that was going. Like because he, and you know what? I guess they must have put some kind of makeup on Craig T. Nelson because his face looked a little different. Like he looked a little darker. He looked a little creepier, like Reverend Kane. You know, he had that like image on him. So like he like I said, he played that possessed Kane. You know, great. Like he really mimicked. You know how a creepy old Kane would be in his body.
Yeah, he looked like sick. Like he looked like he wasn't well.
He looked great.
Yeah. So I the one part, like, big theme of this movie is family. Stick together. Taylor says it a bunch. Stick together and you can beat it. Like, don't leave each other. And so that's what he does is he knows Carol Ann's probably peeping and listening to the conversation. And he starts like
Oh yeah.
Dude, he starts like saying, you said it before. She was an accident. You never wanted her. And it was like, God, this is getting intense. And then you said like the throwing her on the ground, getting on top of her. And that's what didn't make any sense. So he's in the body and then it just happens that he's going to start throwing up. Did anything make the throw up happen?
Yeah. She kept saying, I love you. Don't worry about it. Like she kept kind of forcing the spirit out of him by saying like, I know who you are. This is not you. I love you. I love you. And I guess that, you know, the spirit couldn't take that mushy stuff. So, you know, it started leaving his body. And then the minute you saw him, like, you know, hold his stomach, you knew what was going to come out. Now that thing was pretty massive in size.
Yeah.
How did it come out of his mouth?
Oh,
I felt like they would have been like a Beetlejuice kind of thing where his mouth would open up like really wide and this big worm would come out. But like that thing was massive and it came out of his mouth. Like, and it wasn't even a worm. I don't know what it was. It was like creepy looking.
Well, it was definitely it looked like a half dog and half fish. Like when it finally came to be. No, but the thing that was wild was, so they kept cutting back and forth so you could see Joe Beth Williams' reaction. It starts off like a little bit coming out of his mouth. And then they cut away and then they cut back and then like a whole leg of like the whole body is like out of his mouth. He's standing straight up and he's a big dude.
Yeah.
And it's touching the floor. And then the thing goes under the bed. And one thing in these movies, they just like throw shit around. Always. Things fly, lamps fly. The whole bed just thrown on top of them. And the thing is just like wiggling on the ground like a fish out of water. And then it just disappears into the hallway.
And you know what? They didn't seem like, I think they were relieved at first. They didn't seem like an urgency, like get up and run and go for the kids. Once again, bad parenting. They sat there. They were like, all right, we got rid of it. And then all of a sudden, the minute they heard a scream is when they got up. Like they weren't like, they just had this creature come out of his mouth and run away. And they took their time to get up. You know, again, I think they need a good parenting school.
Yeah. And then when they all run and I think she gets thrown through a door. So then he like goes through the door. And then when he's in there, the creature again just keeps growing and growing. It's like filling up the hallway. It looked like something from Resident Evil. Reaches in there, grabs him by the throat, and it's like choking him to death. Just keeps choking him. And you're like, dude, what's going to happen? And then boom, the spirit. He blows it out of his mouth onto the guy. It looked like he was like blowing like a cigar. Anyway, as soon as it hit it, dude, it just again disappeared. So was that really there?
Well, I think it's hard. You know what? You're right. I mean, again, it might, maybe a lot of this wasn't there, but somehow the Indian knew that was going to happen because he gave him that protection. You know, he has more power than the magic munchkin.
Oh yeah.
So like, I mean, but I don't understand why he had to leave the house then. Like, I still don't understand that part. Like, why did he leave until the spirit was gone? Like, he left the family to deal with them themselves. And why couldn't he tell Craig T. Nelson, listen, I'm giving you this spirit protection, so when you need it, you know, it's going to be in you. Instead, he just blew smoke in his nose and ignored it. Like, he didn't say anything about that.
But wouldn't the spirit in him would have maybe prevented the Reverend taking over his body?
No, because maybe it wasn't a danger yet, you know? But still, why wouldn't he tell him, you're going to have this in you, so, you know, don't worry, it will help you when you need to. He's like, no instructions. Just say, hey, take my spirit and, you find out for yourself.
Are you a spirit expert?
I did take a couple classes in college.
Ah, nice.
Yeah.
We need to get a spirit. If you're listening, you're a spirit or an exorcist expert or know anything about it. We'd like to know, because I think that if that thing's in his body and something's trying to take over, it should have just stopped it. Like taking like Pepto-Bismol or something and stop stomachache.
So you think the key to getting rid of a spirit is Pepto-Bismol?
Yeah. So we kind of touched on this before. So they're trying to find Carol Ann, but because she was like hearing that she was an accident, which is pretty tough for a kid. She goes and hides herself in the car, and then she wasn't opening the door, and the electrical line was trying to kill them. And this is pretty cool.
Yes,
the dog was the hero.
Yes. But the dog does get zapped, and you hear her
I know, that was weird.
I was honestly, I was a little nervous for the dog. I didn't think the dog was going to make it out of there. I thought, the dog's going to save them. They're going to run because they jumped in the car. They kind of left the dog out there. Like again, maybe it's part of the bad parenting, but they seem to leave everybody. They seem to care about themselves more than anybody else anymore.
That is true. They just leave everyone, no matter what. No, but we talked about the chainsaw was really cool. The way it was floating, and it looked great. The effect looked cool. And he was like ripping up the front of the car, about to get into the ripping up the top. But yeah, they finally get that hunk of junk car to start and get it out of there. And then this is where I wonder how they thought of it. It was like just in one instant, they knew that they had to go to their old house.
No, the Indian told them that.
Oh, he was there?
No. When they were in the sauna or the mountaintop lodge, he said, he goes, you're going to have to go back there with your family where it all started. And you're going to have to go there and, face them remember, surprise them.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay. On their turf.
So he knew, Craig T. Nelson knew he had to go there.
So we talked about this earlier. So when Carol Ann was screaming, mommy, mommy, nobody helped. Where the hell are all their neighbors? Or maybe this isn't really, maybe you're right. None of this is real. They could really just hear screaming, and they're like, well, there should be screaming. This a-hole, as soon as he gets back from selling vacuums, he's drinking tequila out of the bottle on his front lawn.
Listen, I got neighbors who play Call of Duty, and I can hear them screaming, cursing across the street. When they're playing video games. There's no way you're going to tell me you have a poltergeist in your house. You have tornadoes in your bedroom. You have like constant screaming and monsters coming around, and not one neighbor hears anything or sees anything. Come on. And listen, there's nosy neighbors everywhere.
I'm sure there's some good gossip going on. So yeah, they got a tall Indian guy over there just hanging out. He has a shirt. There's moths all over his body right now. I gotta go.
It's like, oh, she has another man over the house. This time it's a reverend or the blade.
Yeah. And then she invited a magic. There's a little person there too.
What the hell's going on over there?
Her husband's working and she's playing all day. So they have to, I don't know how I feel about it. Like, even if I knew this is what I had to do, to bring your kids into that cave, that'd be hard to do, even if you knew that it would happen. And dude, it gets pretty intense really quick. Joe Beth and Carol Ann vanish.
And
like, you don't know where they went.
Correct. And then what does Craig T. Nelson do? He leaves his son and goes after them.
He dives down a slide.
And leaves his son. Doesn't say, come with me. Again, they're constantly leaving their kids alone.
So does he have premonition? Did he know that they were going to be there? So he was sitting in that room super calm, like, hey, you're here.
See, I thought that was just like, maybe he was doing like a hologram. I thought it was like a hologram or something of him. Like, why would he be just sitting there? Like, he was totally prepared. Like, again, he could have avoided a lot of things that went on in the old house if he just said, listen, just meet me here. We'll set up. I'll make a fire. You jump in it. We'll fit. Instead, he makes Craig T. Nelson go through all that other crap at the other house just to say, oh, you're here. Like, I feel like even though he has some powers, he's not really helpful in a lot of ways. It's almost like he's constantly testing them.
Yeah, he's basically like saying like, hey, this is what you should do. I don't know if you should do it. I'm not going to be there to help you or watch you. But I'd like to know his story. What if he's married and he's just never home? Maybe they have a rough relationship too.
Could be. But you know what? You don't see any other Indians. Like, you would think, like, he's not the only Indian that has these magic powers. Why wouldn't he bring like a whole tribe there?
That'd have been smart. Maybe then they have to charge him.
Well,
and then we'll find out at the end, maybe he wouldn't have enough. Well, we can talk about it now. So he takes Craig T. Nelson's car.
Well, he's obviously a conniver. Because the whole movie so his goal was to get the car in the first place. You know, tell me, it's a bad car. He's angry. He really just wanted the car himself.
I know.
But I want to know. So they hired the magic muffin or midget, whatever her name is. Muffin, lady in the first movie. They hired her.
Yeah.
Is she just doing it for fun for the second movie? Like they did, because she comes on her own. Like she's not. Yeah. She doesn't get paid at all. The Indian's not getting paid for anything. So like, why are they doing it? Just to be nice?
I guess so. Maybe they're trying to like break into that industry, and they have no reviews or no. I don't. That's what was weird about the Taylor guy, because he was just living there. Maybe he was just getting room and board, so you didn't have to sleep in the cave.
And you know what? Back to the Taylor guy. Not for nothing. You've seen a lot of weird stuff going on. How do you know you could trust this guy 100%?
Yeah. He could have been a bad person.
He could have been a bad person.
Well, I guess maybe they know that Carol Ann could kind of
sense.
Yeah. So he leaves the kid, but then he obviously gets his kid back. He goes into this, and Michael Grace talked about it, like they wanted to do this flying thing at the end. He wasn't like a big fan of it, but they're flying in the air, and they're like, again, family and love, trying to like reach out and grab them. So this creature comes. Another ginormous, like, it was a totem pole of Reverend Kane heads. I wish there was more of a one-on. We'll talk about that afterwards, but he's just floating, and he has nothing to beat him with. How the hell does Taylor put his Native American like staff through the fire?
Well, I mean, through the fire was the hole that.
Yeah.
So a couple of questions for this whole part, because this whole part, to me, first of all, the special effects were amazing on this part. I mean, yeah. Okay. So where they are, is that where they were when they were in the TV in the first movie? Like, is that like the space they were in? And my other question is, so, all right, they jump in the fire. They automatically go to the exact same spot, the floating spot where they are. And somehow they're able to float to each other. Like they seem to be floating, just no time, no space. They just like float, like that whole area. Like it was a very weird kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, it was Limbo. There was no one else in Limbo at that time.
But they were right. There's no one else there.
There's no one there.
And they could go to the same exact spot. Like he has like a teleport device with fire that could bring him exactly where the other one is. And they can hand things off. So he obviously can hand him like that was. But again, if you watch the first movie, when they had the closet, they were able to throw the rope through the closet that came through the ceiling in the basement, downstairs. So maybe. Yeah, that seems kind of weird.
It was just weird when he handed him the staff, and then he used the staff. He threw it.
Perfect.
First try, javelin throw right through its chest. And
see now, even with a throw, they're moving to each other very slow. They're just floating there. Would the spear go that fast?
I know the spear went way too fast. It's almost like they were like floating like a goo almost, or like super thick air, because they were. It was almost like they were in slow-mo, but he throws that. He throws it so fast. But so then it's gone. The spirit's gone. But no, Carol Ann's, she's in the light. She's going to the light. She disappears. Everybody huddles up, the whole family. They're crying. And then an angel brings her back. And that was her mom, right?
That was the grandma.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, don't forget, she saw the light many times in the first movie.
Yeah.
They kept saying, don't go to the light. Don't. And then they say, go to the light. Like, it's so like, she's died multiple times, this girl, So yeah, I mean, that last scene was unbelievable.
So we talked about Taylor obviously getting in the car, and the best was he's driving away. It was pretty funny. That's why this movie had like funny parts to it. When he's driving away, Taylor in the car, and it's like, you gave him our car. We don't have a ride home. And then they're like, hey, Taylor, wait. And they start running down the street. But just before that, we talked about like leaving people. The dog is loose. The dog's loose. The dog was not left in the car. The dog was just, so you're telling me that dog, they were like, hey, we're going to go into this hole in the ground. You just stay here. That dog was just like, because I was thinking about that. I'm like, where the hell's the dog? And the dog ran up to them to like congratulate them for surviving.
Wouldn't it be great if the dog jumped in that hole too? And so now the dog's floating with them both.
The dog was the hero in one part.
Now that would have been great. The dog grabs the spear and gives it to Craig T. Nelson. See, that would have been something,
Oh man. So that's the movie. And one thing I have to say is I mentioned it a million times, but Michael Grace, he was awesome. You got to check out his interview. And honestly, this movie, the message was like love conquers all. It was all about family sticking together. So Jamie, what would you do? Is there a way to like fix this, or is it just what it is? It's a 1986 horror movie.
I think, again, I think the writing, the movie, the special effects, everything was perfect for when it came out.
Yeah.
This movie, unfortunately, and there's so many, even comedies, that were so great in the 80s. You watch them now, it's like, oh, how did I like this movie in the 80s? So I don't think there's really much you could change. I think, it kind of tied in the first one, of the, the limbo aspect and behind the light and all that stuff. So I think it tied a lot of it together. The Indian burial ground, you brought an Indian magic man, into it. You brought all the characters. So I don't think there's really anything in my mind that you could change, it. And again, you proved it had nothing to do with houses. It was about the girl. No, I think everything was written well. Unfortunately, I think it's one of those movies that doesn't hold up because, of how movies are made today. And, if you've seen the first one, but never saw the second one, you should watch this. If you've seen this a long time ago, you should watch it. But if you've never seen a Poltergeist before, you might want to skip this one. The first one is great. I mean, he wrote both of them, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think the first one is one of the best horror movies of all time.
Oh,
story wise and everything. In fact, honestly, I almost feel the special effects of the first one were better than the second one in a way.
Yeah. No, they are pretty good.
Well, it is. I think in the first one, they weren't trying to go too over the top. They did a lot of like stuff where in this one, they really tried to go bigger and better. But I guess at the time, the special effects weren't caught up to maybe what they wanted to do. They did the best what they could, what they had, but it just, I don't know. I had a hard time with it.
Yeah, no, like you said, I think the movie was what it was in 1986. And one thing I can say, I jumped, I laughed, and I was disturbed with the kids crying with the Reverend Kane in the caves. But no, I enjoyed watching it. I thought it was a cool movie, and it did have some really cool scenes. But I just love, because I don't remember if Craig T was like that in the first one, but he was hilarious. He had some great lines when he was possessed, how great that was. And no, I would definitely say check it out. So, Jamie, next week we are interviewing. Well, it was one of our first interviews we did, and I wanted to hold off because I thought he was such a cool guy, and I think it's such an iconic character when it comes to like horror, and I think he deserves to, be right around Halloween. So we interviewed. So the first two Texas Chainsaw Massacres, they had an actor that already played Leatherface. He wanted too much money, so they went with a guy that knew the director, and that was R.A. Mihailoff. And R.A. he was one of the coolest guys that I got to talk to. And even still, going back with all the other interviews that we've done, he was such a cool guy. He had a really cool story. He was a professional wrestler. And dude, I don't know. He was just such a cool guy. And so that's Leatherface, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre III. That'll be our next review that we do. And it had a very young Viggo Mortensen in the movie. And it was pretty creepy. Jamie, do you remember? Did you ever see that one?
I never seen any of them. So I have to be honest, I am a little nervous watching this one. I'm not a big horror fan. So I'm definitely a little nervous watching this one.
Well, get used to it because there's a lot of horror that are in a row coming up that are going to be pretty awesome. So thanks for listening. Don't forget to review, rate, and share our podcast. Follow us on all social media at Sequels Only. Good night.
Good night.